Yeah, and this week on the Sportzone, I'm absolutely delighted that we've got Matt Ryder. Matt's an ex-colleague of mine from Furness College, and he's going to be giving us a real insight into his plans for going to Nepal and attempting to climb the famous Mount Everest. How are you doing, Matt?
I'm good, Tony. Thanks for having me. Great to see you.
Yeah, absolutely terrific, Matt. So you were on the Sportzone show about a year ago now, and we did have a little chat about your refereeing exploits and the insights and the sort of observations that you found in refereeing. Are you still refereeing, or have you packed that in now?
No, I wouldn't say I packed it in. I'm just having a bit of a break from local football. I still avidly look out for results, often pop up to Hull Crow Boys to see how the lads are doing, and obviously my passion's with Barrow AFC. But I've got so many other interests at the moment that I can't really commit a Saturday morning to get to refereeing and volunteering and helping out the juniors, so to speak. But never say never. I probably will go back one day.
So how is the refereeing at the moment in Barrow and the Furness area, Matt? Are they struggling to get referees, do you know, or is there plenty of volunteers out there?
I think it's always going to be a challenge, I think, to keep a consistent pool of referees. There is lots of good initiatives going on that are attracting, particularly the youngsters. It's great to see so many young people that may not be good enough to play football, to put it kindly, or both, playing and getting involved. I think there's an old guard of referees that will always be around, or certainly for the next few years, ensuring that obviously the local adult open age football is represented. But I think there is a challenge for anyone that's involved in the societies to have every single fixture covered. And I think they're always trying to look out for new referees. So if anyone is interested, then obviously the Furness Referee Society is where to first part of call and give it a go. It's not for everybody. There's weeks I love it. There's weeks I absolutely despise it. But it's one of them things, you can't have a game of football without a referee. So I think people just need to realise that sometimes when things aren't going your way on the football pitch or at the side of the pitch sometimes.
Absolutely. So, and you did mention Alcohol Boys there, Matt. They're having a really good season, aren't they?
Fantastic, yeah. They've always had a pool for the last few years of some really good young players, and I always thought if them lads can stay together and mature and develop, they'll hopefully, get the results and the rewards. And at the moment, they've had a fantastic start to the season. Still in the FA Vars, a good result at the weekend. And they're right up there, which is, for the last few seasons, Hull have almost just consolidated in that division. It'd be marvellous if those lads can kick on. Some really good young players, nice lads as well. I often see them in the gym when I'm training. And they've popped up occasionally just to, when Barrow aren't playing, just to see how they're getting on. It's good to see.
Yep. Now, I do know as well that another passion of yours, Matt, is commentating, and you've done some work for Radio Cumbria, and I know that you do a lot of commentating for, is it still Radio Lonsdale, the hospital radio?
Yeah, so we've had a few challenges as well, unfortunately, with the success of Barrow Football Club means that the press access to the ground is a little bit more challenging because obviously away teams bring a cohort of people as well to cover the games. But what we did in the summer was we moved our press box to the main stand. We've now gone online rather than using the traditional codec and ISDN links and things. Right. Myself and a couple of lads are still trying our best to put some commentary of Barrow AFC back into the hospital. So these are in the bed stations for patients that can't get to the games, often don't have access to a radio or television, because obviously through the iFollow you can follow games. We've had mixed reviews. We've had a few challenges with technology, but we are committed to making sure that Radio Lonsdale, it's been part of Barrow football for about 20 years, but it remains there. So we'll keep working at it. And it keeps your eye and it keeps you involved with the football. And you see it from a different perspective, don't you? You say from commentating to being a fan on the terracing. So, yeah, it's good. I enjoy it.
Well, fantastic. Now, Matt, when you were on the Sportzone last year, you did mention about your ambition to go to Nepal and attempt to do Everest. So I do believe that that dream is going to come to fruition very shortly, because on November the 6th, I believe you're setting off for Nepal. So do you want to just tell the listeners how you've got involved in this ambition and why do you want to do this?
It's funny, somebody asked me this. We were at a dinner party with some friends, and somebody just said to me, why are you doing it? And I replied, and I must have sounded really stupid because I said, like Forrest Gump moment, I like mountains. And they looked at the whole table exploded in laughter. But ever since I was young, I always loved the outdoors. I used to go to the day camps at YMCA, in the summer holidays, and I absolutely loved it. Every opportunity, I would try and get up into the lakes. Now, being a local sportsman and being involved with football, the weekends were dedicated Saturday afternoon playing football, Sunday morning, Sunday league. I never had the time. And then a young family. My children are a little bit older now, so it's a lot easier. And it's been in sort of last 18 months, just prior to lockdown, I started getting really involved in it. I love mountain biking. I love being on my bike. But then I started getting on the fells again, and I remembered how much I enjoyed it as a child growing up. So my wife and I started doing the Wainwrights, which are very popular for a lot of local people and people all over the country. So we started doing the Wainwrights, and then realised that actually, after being at work all day, particularly obviously in the teaching environment, it's quite stressful at times. It's full on. I was working in computing. I'm always in front of a computer screen. It's just nice sometimes just to get out of the mobile phone range, put your phone in the back of your backpack and just see the world. And I found it helped me with my mindfulness, my own mental health, my wife's mental health, obviously, because we put the world to rights when we're walking. You're also getting really good exercise. I realised how fit I was getting. I dropped a stone almost within a matter of weeks, even though I've never had an issue with weight, but I just felt stronger and healthier. And it just became I would say it became an obsession. Every weekend, like, where are we going next? Anyway, we're on holiday just before the lockdown, and I was reading Ben Fogle, of all things. Ben Fogle recently tackled Everest, and I literally just said, I'm really enjoying this book. I'd love to go to Everest, even if it was just a base camp. Nepal seems a beautiful place. And my wife just turned around to me and said something that most wives would never say to the husband. Well, why don't you go then? I kind of looked at her and went, really? Seriously? When we get back to England, why don't we look into it? So I did. I priced it up, looked at what was involved, looked at what the training was involved, put a little bit of money aside and booked it. Great. So the training now meant something. Unfortunately, COVID came along and it was postponed. I rearranged for last May, but again, we were still in a situation where, although flights and restrictions were easing, Nepal was classed as a country that had its own challenges. So I had to postpone it again. It was rescheduled for now, the 6th of November, for 18 days. But up until 3 weeks ago, Nepal was still a red country, and UK were not accepting flights back into the UK from a red country, which would mean I'd have to isolate in one of those quarantine hotels. So in my mind, three weeks ago, it was going to be rearranged again for a third time. And then I got a phone call from the package company that I'm going with. It's an Australian company called Himalayan Wonders. So I'm going with a team of Australians, which I'm sure will be an experience. The government rules have changed. Are you still set to go? So the last 3 weeks has been absolute chaos getting my visa's sorted, ensuring I've got the correct kit, and I've upped my training dramatically to make sure that I'm as best prepared as I possibly can. So scarily enough, it's happening. So great. I can't wait. It's absolutely fabulous.
Now, I do know on Facebook, Matt, that every time I used to go on, you were somewhere up the Lake District. And I don't mean Bowness having a pint or anything. You're always at the top of some sort of hill or scar or whatever it is. And I used to think, wow, absolutely terrific. And it looked as if you were really passionate and really enjoying yourselves in those hills and spaces.
Yeah, I think it's that. It's something I do on my own. I take the dog. Sometimes the children come along to the smaller fells. My wife and I, we really enjoy it. Although often, even though we're together, we barely speak. But it's just we're together. We're doing something that we both enjoy together. It's fitness. It's an alternative to going to the gym. It's an alternative to standing on a cold terrace as well at the football sometimes. So there has been times where I don't know. I can't really describe why I like it. I just do. And I think it does tie in with that mindfulness, that being outdoors. It's difficult as well. And I always used to think I'm fairly fit. I can go out and have a jog without getting seriously out of breath. I'd like to think for my age, I'm in relatively good shape. But every time you go, it's difficult, even on the small fells. And I think the fitter you get, the faster you go. So therefore, it's still challenging. And I think the Wainwrights was the motivation. There's 214 fells. Let's do them. And we're down to about the last 40 or 50 now, although we've actually discovered fells that aren't in the Wainwright books as well. So we've got a motorhome. We go up to the north of the county with places I would never go, and explore the lakes and the history around the Lake District, which you take for granted. You don't realise how much history there is in some of these little valleys where there's little mines from 400 or 500 years ago and settlers that have come into the region. And that kind of inspires me as well to learn a little bit. So I usually find myself coming back onto Wikipedia when I get back into where you can get 4G and stuff to say, well, where were we? But this is something else, obviously, Nepal. It's a country that I would never plan to go there on holiday. I'm passionate about going to the Highlands of Scotland. As a child, I remember going to the top of Mount Tidy or in Tenerife, the dormant volcano, which in itself was quite a challenge at the time. I've been skiing in the Alps. I've been skiing in Bulgaria, and I just love views. I love that achievement. So this is something else for me to kind of tick off a challenge, because there's reduced oxygen. So you can be as fit and healthy as anything, but your own body can adapt differently to those circumstances and those situations. So for me, it's a little bit of a challenge for myself. It'd be also tough being away from the family for a few weeks, although my wife would probably be over the moon that she's got the whole house to herself. But just to do something for me, I'm travelling on my own. I'll get there and I'll meet up with a team. I think there's about 8 of us in total on the actual trek. And there'll be obviously other trekkers as well. It'll also be at a time when Nepal is just opening up as well. So normally the Everest Trail is quite a busy place to go. But I suspect it'll be a little bit quieter, which would be great as well from the experience. And while I'm there, I'm not summiting Everest as much as I'd love to. Maybe if I had a few £30,000 in a bank account sat aside to do the full trek. It's quite expensive to do the summit, but never say never. But I am going to hopefully get to the top of one of the mountains in that Everest region on one of our acclimatization days. They do encourage you to do a bit of walking and climbing. So I think day 4, there's one of the fells up there, or mountains. I'm going to hopefully try and hopefully get some nice photos and experience the Himalayas from the shoulders of the world perspective.
So how high is Mount Everest, Matt? So
Everest sits at about 20,000 feet, so about 12,000 metres.
20,000 feet.
Sorry, correction, sorry. 8,000 metres, sorry. I always get my feet and meters. Base camp where I'm trekking to is just under 6,000, so about 5,600 metres. So when you think some of the largest fells in the Lake District are around 900 to 1,000 metres, it's a minimum of 5 times higher than the Lake District. So when you think if you stand at the foot of Conisnoe Man and look up, add another 5 Conisnoe Mans on it, and that's where base camp is. So obviously there's reduced oxygen. So your body goes through a whole new experience. So obviously when we walk the fells in the lakes, some of the steep ones, you do get out of breath. You do get a sweat on. Add the lack of oxygen, and it's a whole new challenge. So yeah, it's something I'm really looking forward to doing.
So why is it called base camp then? Where does that come from?
So base camp has come from the original trekkers that went to the summit of Everest. It's the last stop off you can take to camp up before you make your preparations to do the summit. So people that do summit, they don't go from base camp and all the way up to the top and back down again, because your human body cannot physically take that strain. So what they do is these camps will set up there. They have oxygen tanks, plenty of food, and they'll maybe spend several weeks training. So they'll go up to a set altitude, come back down again, and they get the body conditioned, ready to summit. And then eventually they'll stop at maybe 2 or 3 camps, 3 camps on the route to the top of Everest. And as the body is prepared and conditioned, they go over what's called the Kumba Icefall, which is a large glacier. And then they summit, come back down, rest at base camp, and then make their way back down to the lower levels. So the base camp is kind of where the teams of serious mountaineers will set up camp to do their training, ready for the big one.
So you're only going to go to base camp, or are you going to go further up?
Just slightly higher. So the plan is that I will sleep at base camp on one night, but the day the day I do stop, so I arrive early morning at base camp. I'll have time to sort of acclimatise and see what it's all about. But the views of Everest from base camp are restricted because it's almost in a little valley. So before we set up camp for the night, the Sherpas that I am travelling with are going to take me to a viewpoint further up. So you start to just cross the icefall slightly and you get a view of Everest and the valleys, which is meant to be breathtaking. Then we'll come back down, stay over, and then we make our way back down a slightly different route back to a place called Lukla, which is the shortest runway in the world. Apparently the small little planes come in and drop you into the valley. And they say that in itself is an experience. So I'm looking forward to just seeing a different part of the world and doing something I enjoy.
So what sort of ground you're on? Are you on rock that's covered in ice? Is that what you're walking on?
It varies. They said when I land in Kathmandu, it'll be shorts and T-shirt, even though I've been checking the weather forecast and it's not massive tropical temperatures. You fly to Lukla, you'll get off the plane, and at this time of year, it's just after monsoon season, so apparently it's very rich with vegetation. The trail itself is very rocky. So it could well be something similar to what I'm familiar with in the Lake District with like well-worn paths. And as you get higher, you sort of hit the ice fall, so the vegetation drops away, you start coming into sort of rocky terrain, and then you hit the snow further up as you get closer to base camp. So there will be potentially snow on the summits as I get higher up, and certainly looking at the photographs that I've looked at this time of year in that area towards the base camp, it's snow and ice, and obviously there's a large glacier that covers that area as well. So I need to literally pack for every season.
So when you were going to the Lake District, Matt, what was a typical day distance that you did?
So what we tend to do, we don't just pick one fell, we tend to pick a group of fells. And that's one good thing about the Wainwright guides. It works for every level of fitness. You could do each mountain one at a time. And on average, most mountain walks take you an hour and a half. But what Alfred Wainwright did in his books was to try and encourage you to link walks. So we typically do between 8 and 12 miles.
Every time we go, yeah. Every
time we go. So we'd spend 6 hours, at least half a day there. We always got our timings wrong. We always get lost. We'd get up there, and what you find is the first half an hour is the worst because your muscles are cold and getting your body warmed up. You get to the summit, and then you'd see the next summit, and you say, okay, and you'd walk over the ridges. And what's great about the Lake District, all the ridges and fells all kind of interlink quite nicely. And then you'd look back and you think, we've just walked from there to there in the last 15 minutes, and you surprise yourself. And then you say to yourself, let's do another one then. And before you know it, we've ticked off 6 or 7 fells. Your legs are absolutely burning by the end of it. And you come back and we've got a wall chart, we tick them off, and have a nice meal up in the lakes, a couple of beers sometimes. And it's just nice. It's just a night. Certainly, I used to associate when we used to go cycling with Jim Lonsdale at the college that first beer after you've done a long road cycle is the best feeling in the world. And I agree. And it's the same when I'm not driving, obviously. After you've had a long trek, it's just nice to go into one of the Lake District pubs again and just enjoy the place. We take it for granted so much living in Barrows, and it's on our doorstep.
I know.
We're half an hour away, aren't we?
Yeah.
So
now, was those trips to the Lake District all planned in the sense that it was a plan for Everest, or was it just sort of, I don't know, random?
Something I always wanted to. I was always doing anyway when I could. Probably not as often as I am now, for the very reason that Everest is something I need to be fit and ready for. But I don't want it to be, now I've done Everest, that's it. Because I'll probably do them again. And my long-term plan is that I'd like to take other people up there. So I see this as, yes, I'll achieve every fell that I can within the Lake District. I'm nearly there. But then I want to do it again. And I've also got a few friends now that have also benefited from just coming with me. I've reconnected with a friend from 20 years ago by literally my photograph on Facebook on a mountain. Oh, I was up there last week. Oh, brilliant. We'll have to do a walk together.
Yes.
And before you know it, every 2 weeks now we meet up and we go and we put the world to rights. And as we say, we talk about mindfulness, and us men don't like to talk about our problems. It's something we don't do, or there's a stigma behind it, I found myself and friends opening up, discussing problems, putting the world to right, ranting, reminiscing of previous memories. But we do that, and before you know it, we've walked 6 miles and we've not stopped for breath. We've just, you wouldn't do that in the pub. You know, you'd sit in the pub, you'd have a few beers, you'd be distracted by the TV, you'd probably be distracted by your phone in front of you. Yes. You know, you see people, don't you, in pubs, don't they? They're sat together, but they're engaged with other things. So getting out and doing that, I think, is life-changing for me. It really does make me see the world in a different light, and I'd like to share that experience with other people.
Wow.
So in the new year, I'm going to be doing my mountain leader training, so I can actually start taking groups of people. You know, I could do it unofficially now, but I think it's important that you have the right paperwork and the right professional qualifications. And my plan is to take other people.
Wow.
And let other people, because I've got friends that say, we'd love to do that, but we wouldn't know where to start. And we've got, I said, my wife's best friends, we've encouraged them to come with us a couple of times. And she says to me, how do you know where to go? Well, you read maps, you read guidebooks, and you get lost. We get lost every time we go. It's part of the fun of, where have we gone wrong? You know, so I think that's, you know, for children especially. Although my daughters will curse me because they hate going, but they love it afterwards. They love that they have done it. Yes. My daughter, you know, the lip she gives me as we're climbing up. This is rubbish, Dad. Why are you doing this? You know, this is not fun. You know, and then when we get up there, she's there doing TikToks on the top of the fells, you know, enjoying the scenery and posting it on her own social media, and you know, a completely different way. If I take a photograph and maybe put it on Instagram, she's dancing on TikTok and sharing the dance on a fell. And then if she's had the people interact with her and say, "Where's that? That looks really cool." So as a family, we've embraced it. So I want other people to experience that, because we are in a world that we literally do. We evolve around social media. We go to work. If we are fortunate to go to work, some people don't have that luxury. They're working from home. And then you get caught at the weekends going to the supermarket, doing the things that you do, and you don't get that recreation and me time or interaction with other people. And I think it's important. It's something I really strongly believe in, and it's something from my experiences, you know, following Nepal, that I want to share with others. And it could be something that I do instead of the other hobbies that I've had historically, the team sports. This might be something that's my new thing. Yeah, I just wish I'd started it sooner, but it's never too late, is it?
No. So just looking forward then, Matt. So you're going to Nepal a week on Saturday, is that correct?
Yeah, so I fly Manchester Airport on the Saturday 6th. I actually got flying via Dubai. Just the way the limited flights I could get to Kathmandu at the time of booking. I'm going into Dubai. I have a long stopover in Dubai, unfortunately, but it is what it is. I was hoping I could leave the airport and explore a little bit of the city, but unfortunately, the flight times, it's the early hours of the morning.
So what's Dubai? About 6 hours? 6
hours, yeah. So it's a long transfer in Dubai, and then I fly into Kathmandu.
How long does that take?
It's about another 5 hours from Dubai. So it's about 11 hours in total.
Right.
Once I arrive in Kathmandu, I've got a little bit of time. It's like a briefing with the Himalayan Wonders team for 12 hours. I stop over in Kathmandu that evening. And then first thing in the morning, breakfast, pack your gear into duffel bags. Literally leave your suitcase at the hotel and they give you a duffel bag. And you take obviously your essential clothing and a sleeping bag and walking boots. There's a little small shuttle bus to a small airport, regional airport, and then they fly you to Lucknow on one of these little, best way to describe it is those little Indiana Jones sort of cargo planes. And literally, as you step off the run onto the runway at Lucknow, you've got a 6 hour trek to the first tea house. So there's, I think, 8 in total, of which 2 are Sherpas. They will be carrying my bags. It's fantastic. Literally a duffel bag on each shoulder. And we trek to the first tea house. We're staying in tea houses. There's opportunities. There is hotels on the Everest Trail, but I wanted to experience the Nepalese culture.
What's a tea house?
It's very literally the house that the locals live in, with a couple of rooms for sort of lodgings and a room, like a little dining room.
Oh, yeah.
And the family cooks for you as well. So you get to sort of help sustain their economy, because obviously these people, they'll have been hit massively, I think, with the tourism. They rely massively on the tourism. You also soak in that Buddhist culture, and I say you move from tea house to tea house all the way up to base camp. Take a U-turn at the top, and we come down a slightly different route back to Lukla. So it's over 12 days of trekking, and then obviously there's a time in Kathmandu at the end for me to sort of see a little bit of the Nepal capital as well. So yeah, once in a lifetime opportunity. Never thought I'd be able to go. I wish my wife was coming with me, but she suffers quite badly with asthma. And at the time when we booked, she said, I don't think I'd be able to manage, those high altitudes. So hopefully make new friends. And again, it's just something different, isn't it? From the traditional sort of holiday we do.
So when do you join up with the 8 Australians then?
So I'll meet them when I arrive in Kathmandu. So they will be arriving on the same day. The trek actually starts on the 8th. So Monday the 8th is the first day of the trek. So I'm assuming they'll be making their own arrangements to get to Kathmandu. And from that Monday morning, when we head to the regional airport, that's when we'll be together.
So how did all that come together then? How come you're going with 8 Aussies, Matt?
Well, I was just being very prudent when I was looking at different packages. There's so many different packages. There's some that helicopter you up there, which was what a fantastic experience that would be. But obviously, I'd say I didn't have a tight budget, but I was working under a budget. And I just found this Australian company was considerably cheaper than the British companies for the same package. So I literally powered wonders of the internet, isn't it? And I contacted them. We've had Zoom calls. There's actually 2 in the group. There's actually 2 from the USA as well. So it's bringing different cultures, different sets of people together. Are
they all men?
I don't know. I know nothing about who they are, what ages they are. Again, it's going to be nice, I think, when we meet up. But also you integrate with other groups as well. Apparently the community spirit on the trail, you tend to pass people as you're walking up the trails, and when you get to the settlements, it's nice. Everyone sort of rallies together, and it's quite humble. So again, something to experience.
Now, I do know that you've sort of linked this to a charity, Dementia UK, Matt, and I think you've got a Just Giving page as well, haven't you? So how can the listeners get involved and perhaps support you?
So people that know me, on my Facebook, I am trying, without bombarding people's news feeds, I am trying to share every few days my Just Giving page. I can put the Just Giving page within the chat of the Zoom call if you like, Tony, if you'd like to promote it through CANDO, which would be wonderful. So yeah, I was in 2 minds what to raise, who to raise for. But I think Dementia UK is something that will touch us all. If it hasn't already, at some point in our lives, we're going to have loved ones that are with dementia. And I just feel that it's a charity that would benefit from some funds. And I think sometimes, and I watched a documentary during about COVID, about obviously some of the nursing homes and things that were kind of an afterthought and people not being able to visit. And it just touched me. And I just felt that, I'm doing this for myself, the trek, but it'd be nice if I can raise some money and raise some awareness as well for something that is very important to everybody. So I hadn't set a target as such to raise, but at the moment people are currently generously adding to my page. And if people would like to contribute, it would mean a lot to myself, and hopefully the charity will benefit as well.
Are there any COVID restrictions where you're going, Matt? Do you have to do something a bit different?
It's a daily challenge at the moment because I'm constantly having to check. So literally through the Nepalese embassy and things. At the moment, to get to Nepal, I have to ensure that within 72 hours of flight, I don't have COVID. So I've planned a PCR test literally for next week. I'm literally being very careful where I'm going at the moment because obviously teenage daughters that are in schools, it's quite rife in schools at the moment. So I've just got to be careful. I'm still attending the gyms and things. I'm just being as cautious as I need be. I'm working from home, so hopefully I'm not exposed as much as I would. For Nepal itself, as long as I've had the 2 jabs, which I have, as long as I'm wearing masks in certain areas and respecting their customs and cultures, I should be okay. They've opened the country up, if there was any doubts, I would have rearranged and postponed for the third time. But at the moment, they're welcoming tourists. The actual social media sites that I follow are showing people in the locations that I'm going. And I guess it's just a case of just respecting the customs that are there. So I'll be prepared. I'll be wearing my masks and doing the things that we should all be doing anyway. So fingers crossed there is no restrictions or sort at the moment. But again, that could change while I'm out there. The worry is that while I'm out there, I may have to quarantine when I'm coming back. But hopefully there'll be no issues and I can enjoy the experience and come back safely.
Now, when you're walking up to base camp and everything, Matt, you won't be able to stop for a pub meal and a pint, will you?
Not the same, although there is the village is on the route. So the way it's planned, each night has a stopover in a tea house within little villages. There is beer.
Oh, right, okay.
And somebody did say to me that you're better drinking the beer because you're not quite sure where the water's come from. So it's going back to medieval times, isn't it? So hopefully there'll be an opportunity.
Oh, right.
Again, I'm sure the lack of altitude or lack of oxygen will probably give your head a sort of a nice sensation anyway without the need for a beer. But sociably, I think it'll be really nice to mix with different cultures. I'm sure I'll make friends for life on it, which is something you can take away from that.
Well, it sounds absolutely fantastic, Matt. You can tell in your mannerisms that you're absolutely...
It's terrifying now, Tony. Yeah, it's absolutely terrifying to think that I'm actually going because you kind of plan for it, but it's months away.
Yeah.
It's literally just over a week I'll be getting ready to go. Yeah.
Absolutely. And sorry, which flight are you going on? Which company?
So I'm flying with Emirates.
Oh, yeah.
I'm flying well, there's various different options. I could have gone Etihad for my loyalty for my football team, but I'm flying to Dubai on Emirates. I've flown with Emirates before. I've been fortunate to have travelled to the Far East in Australia.
So you're not slumming it then?
No. I've even upgraded my tea houses as well recently as well. When it was confirmed there was an option, because they aren't fully booked at the moment, there's more availability in some of these places. So I've actually upgraded my tea houses now, which possibly means I have opportunities to charge my phones up and maybe have running water in some of the tea houses don't have running water. So it'd be nice to have a shower occasionally.
Are you able to contact anyone at home, like your wife? Is the phone working? Or
I'm hoping so. There is opportunities to buy SIM cards, but apparently the signals aren't brilliant. Right. There is internet at some of the tea houses that we're going. They said, be warned, it's not brilliant. So I'll use, obviously, tools like WhatsApp. I'd like to try and put maybe a photograph on my Just Giving page, sort of like a journal of where I am and how it's going. So hopefully, I hope I'll be able to communicate with my daughters and the wife back, just to ensure they know I'm okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Put the bins out and things.
Well, it sounds absolutely fantastic, Matt. And there's one thing we're going to definitely do is when you come back, hopefully you can come back on and tell us about the whole experience and share it with the CANDO FM listening community, really. I think it'll be absolutely terrific to get that feedback from yourself.
Yeah, I'd love to, Tony. Thank you.
All right then, Matt. Well, look, it's great to see you. You're looking really fit and well. You're looking primed to go to Everest, and I just wish you all the best, mate.
Thanks, Tony. Brilliant. Thank you.